Our rising population needs sound education to be recognized anywhere you go. You better have your certificate to show, to enjoy any kind of happiness. Knowledge is the key to success. Children go to school and learn well. Otherwise, later on in life, you go catch real hell. Without an education in your head, your whole life will be pure misery. You're better off dead. For there is simply no room in this whole wide world for an uneducated little boy or girl. Don't allow idle companions to lead you astray. To earn tomorrow, you got to learn today. Bada, bada, bada. Oh, God. So education sweet. For employment, yes, employment, you must be intelligent. So it's essential, very essential, to have your credentials. Remember, if you're blockheaded like a mule, no one will employ a fool. You will be the last one to be hired, and the very first one to be fired. Children go to school, learn well. Otherwise, later on in life, you go catch real hell. Without an education in your head, your whole life will be pure misery. It's better you're dead. Be deep, for there is simply no room in this whole wide world for an uneducated little boy or girl. You attest to that, right? Don't follow idle companions, or you will get born to earn. To earn, you got to learn. Bada, 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 bada. See the move? Illiteracy is man's greatest enemy. So it's your duty, yes, your duty, stamp it out completely. Ignorance always impedes progress. Education saves you much distress. So learn as much as you can. This nation's future is in your hands. Children go to school and learn well. Otherwise, later on in life, you go catch real hell. Without an education in your head, your whole life will be pure misery. You're better off dead. For there is simply no room in this whole wide world for an uneducated little boy or girl. Don't allow idle companions to lead you astray. To earn tomorrow, you got to learn today. If I go back. It's a treasure, yes, a treasure beyond any measure. So secure it, just secure it. Don't ever ignore it. I say to fight life's battles, come what may. Education will light up your way. Without it, you'll never, never, never get through. Success or failure, no, it is up to you. Children go to school. Otherwise, later on in life, you go catch. Without an education, your whole life will be pure misery. You're better off. For there is simply no room in this whole wide world for an uneducated little boy or girl. Don't allow idle companions to lead you astray. To earn tomorrow, you got to learn today. And a man, a fig and a pig and a... Tell them what you think. Captain, there's a treasure on board. You tie the shoelace good enough. This shoelace, I feel you trying to strip me, you know. This shoes you like. Tie the thing good enough. You want to see me fall down here so you could laugh? Well, according to the education you get when you're small, you will grow up with true ambition and respect for one and all. But in my days in school, they teach me like a fool. They think they teach me I should be a block-headed mule. What they teach me? They tell me pussy has finished his work long ago. And then they say, Salamana Gandhi, born on a Monday, the ass in the lions. Then they say, winking, blinking, and... You know the song? Putty Lucy tail and the guitar fighting to get monkey liver soup and dime. Bedtime stories. That's to put you around the stick. Banana, oh, oh. The poems and lessons they write and send from England impress me. They were trying to cultivate comedians. Comic books make more sense. You know it is fictitious without pretense. J.O. Cartridge wanted to keep us in ignorance. We said, Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. And then he said, Goosey Goosey yonder. Somebody ball, ding dong del mama yo. Alright, K-K-I-T, and Dan is the man in the round. Cartridge was plenty times more advanced than them scientists. I can't believe that one man could write so much damn foolishness. Aeroplanes and rockets didn't come so soon. Scientists used to make things up in balloon. This time, Cartridge did not make a cow jump over the moon. And then he said, Tom, the piper's son, stole a pig and away he ran. And once there was a woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children that she didn't know what to do. Hickory, duck. The mouse ran up the clock. The lion and the mouse, a woman pushing a cow to eat grass on top of her house. And Dan is the man in the van. You remember them days? How I happen to get a little education, my friend. Me I know. All they teach me is about bear rabbit and Rumpelstiltskin. They wanted to keep me down indeed. They tried their best but couldn't succeed, you see. My head was done, see, and up to now I carried. So who the hell care about Peter? Peter was a pumpkin eater. The lily-pot people tying Gulliver. When I was sick and lay abed, I had 2 pillows at my head. And the goose laid the golden egg. Spider catching fly, Morocco with wings, flapping in the sky. They beat me like a dog to learn that in school. If my head was bright, I would not be a damn fool. With Dan is the man in the van. Can a pig dance a jig for a pig? Mr. Mike goes to school on a bike. Little boy stood in his shoes and he wondered. He stood in his shoes and he wondered. Can a pig dance a jig for a pig? Let me hear you. Can a pig dance? Too early, too steep, too smooth. Too early. Hey, Dan is the man in the van. I said Dan is the man in the van. Ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba. Dan is the man in the van.
The master himself, the mighty Sparrow, Slinger Francisco, Dr. Slinger Francisco, the greatest of them all. 2 sides of education, 2 dimensions of education. Education as an imperative for social mobility for all of us. But at the same time, that education was tinged with colonial overtones. As Sparrow said, if his head was bright, he would be a damn fool. Dan is the man in the van, a classic for the old timers. You will remember that. Good evening to all of you, and welcome to Politics 101. It's a Tuesday evening, and Dr. Henry Jeffrey is here. We're going to be talking tonight about the role of third parties in Guyana society, and what comes with that. As you notice, the public servants got a raise today. 10% this year, 8% next year. What's new? What's new? Oh my God. The cash grant is still belly aching. Still belly aching. The registration thing and walking, all kind of problems with the registration. This morning papers carried the WPA's call for a dialogue between the two leaders, the leader of the opposition and the PPP leader, to try to iron out the issues before election. Our fear is that if we go to an election where one side is not satisfied with the rules, we're heading for trouble. And so we called on the two leaders to sit down and try to come to some political solution. Of course, GCOM has to do its work, but I think it's the politics that is getting in the way. And so WPS called for the two leaders to begin a dialogue. We'll ask Mr. Dr. Jeffrey about that development and his views in it. A good evening to all of you, wherever you're joining us from. Whether you're joining us from Guyana or outside of Guyana, whether you're joining us from as far as Europe, the Caribbean, North America, some of you from Africa. Welcome to Politics 101. I would like to thank Asher, my countryman Asher, for making his contribution to the WPA, a contribution to the party. Welcome on behalf of the WPA. And to Kenneth from Maryland for making his contribution to Politics 101. Thank you all very much. It's our fund drive, as they call it, and it is continuing throughout the month. So you can make your small contributions. Let's bring in Dr. Jeffrey right away, and let's get going with the discussion. Dr. Jeffrey, good evening.
David, how are you?
Well, it's Christmas time, and I'm hoping that we get a little ease from the politics. But knowing what I know about Guyana, I doubt.
That's not going to happen, David. That's not going to happen. Christmas time is when what has happened today has happened, and that's going to be discussed for the next couple of weeks coming up. Whether or not 10% at the beginning of January is still 10% at the end.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obviously not. To give me 10% at January, you got to give me 14% at the end. After all the inflation and everything, I mean, makes no sense. Effectively, until you get collective bargaining in Guyana, seriously, and the unions can sit down, the government will do what they like. They give you what they like. If they feel that you're on their side, they give you some more. If they don't feel you're on their side, they don't give you. If they'll do what they like. You come and say, I give you 10%, and next year I'll give you 8%, the 8%. And you want to give me the 8% in December. So by December, you should possibly give me about 16%. I mean, this is all nonsense. But by the way, see, this is this is the kind of problem we face because PPP supporting us on the streets. You do the same thing. You didn't have no collective bargaining.
Right.
I mean, that was such a disastrous stupidity. Your people that more or less support you, you not gonna talk to them about your own wages. You can come down and say, we give you 75, 77% as they're saying, but it is not for you to give. The government is not there to determine people's wages, your workers' wages unilaterally. No employer should be in a position to unilaterally determine his employer's wages. You got trade unions, you got organization, you got negotiations. But that is what you did. So when now the PVP do it, what are you going to say? Indeed, you did the same, even work. You did the same thing too. You pay them at the end of the year just the same. It's like if there was madness.
Dr. Jeffrey, what goes into the thinking of governments? Because you've made a very important observation that the last government behaved the same way. Um, and this government is behaving the same way. What is it that goes into government thinking when they come to contemplate public
Knowledge.
servants' wages?
You were just talking about education and knowledge. Half of them know what they're doing. They know what they'll try to get at, but they don't know where they're going. Explain to me then, if that's not the truth, because I don't think they were just bad-minded, but they thought that's the way to do business. But obviously that wasn't the way to do business. It couldn't have been. You have your own supporters. Oh, you say give them 75%, 77%, but it's not for you to give them. It's for them to have representation in a proper democratic government and represent themselves. You want to be in a position like a little dictator, just like the PPP. Give them. You want to give them. You don't want them to sit down at the table, negotiate on you or what they got, what they'll get. They might get more, they might get less. But it's the process. Look what happened to the teachers. The teachers had a great break, and then suddenly they fluff it. The court tell them, go and do something. They never went back to the court. Instead of that, they make a deal. What's going on? I mean, what's going on? Collective bargaining is central in any organization if you are going to get fair wage. And that's why around the world you are fighting the Bezos and all of them, saying you must have collective bargaining agreements, or else the disparity in wealth we are seeing in the world would only get worse. This is what we have on the ground. So when people come and you see that's it, you go, it's some question. You started off by sparrow and say you go to school to get more ignorant or something. That is it. Knowledge.
10% to public servants whose wages are already depressed. In real terms, it's not even 10%, as you pointed out. It's not even 10%. What is the objective? I suppose the objective in raising wages.
The objective is to keep Black people poor, so they're going to be forced into the PPP. I said that 10 years ago. It's the same story. It's the same story. And if the PPP want to deny it, they could, but there's a scientific way of doing it, David. You can do an ethnic disparity analysis. Britain did it, Australia did it, and show how Black people have benefited under your regime. Show it. This whole discourse can finish tomorrow. Do an objective ethnic disparity analysis, and let me show how Black people are equal or gets better under your regime. Because what they've just done here, they've been doing since when? Since the 90s. They've been giving you increases at the end of the year. That is much less than it would have been at the beginning of the year. If you give me 10%, what 10% can buy in January can't buy in December. You're lucky. Some things you can't buy 5% of.
That's right.
So you have to be, and you've been, but when you came to office, you did the same thing. And well, I know that too. Maybe you believe you won't have to leave office. That's true. That also is ignorance. If you're in a democratic system, you must be prepared to lose office. You must create the ground so that if you lose office, you and your supporters will not be worse off. So that's it, David.
Dr. Henry Jeffrey here addressing the announcement today that public servants would be getting a 10% raise this year, retroactive to January, and 8% next year. And of course, that 8% they'll get next year, December, retroactive to January. It's the economic ill treatment of public servants who are mainly of African Guyanese descent. So, it has ethnic consequences. It has consequences of poverty because wages are supposed to do two things. In the first place, to deal with the present cost of living, and the second place to help you to alleviate poverty. And clearly, 10% of the already depressed wage of public servants is nothing. And more than that, given the wealth that we have now, government cannot make the same excuses that they made in the past, which is that they didn't have the kind of money to pay the wages that the unions were demanding. In any case, this government and the previous government, as Dr. Jeffrey has been saying, they have not sat down with the unions. They have not. They've both flouted the principle of collective bargaining, a principle that was fought for by workers over a long period of time. Dr. Jeffrey, let us move to the cash grant issue. We talked about it the last time. The problems have not gone away. We are hearing all kinds of problem with this registration. What it has come down to is whether this registration was necessary or not. Your take.
Well, first of all, if we talk about the cash grant specifically, remember, first of all, the PPP wasn't giving you anything.
Right.
They didn't believe in anything. Forced into giving you something, they decided to give $200,000 per family. Overnight, they come up with this thing. Then, how they're going to distribute this $400,000 become a problem. So they decided to give everybody over 80 years old. Now, I said that. I said it now. You got to watch how they're moving with this thing because this thing like a registration for elections. And that means that the PPP will authenticate. Once they collect the cash grant, they can be authenticated as Guyanese for the most part. They got ID, they got cash grant. How you can tell them they can't vote? I'm telling this thing got a whole lot of dimensions, and I hope that you people in the political process are looking. I know the PNC have good, very, very good elections people. There's no question about it. They beat the PPP in 2011, and in 2015. When they lost, they were in shock. Bart started blaming the party officials. Oh, they didn't work hard enough. 2015, he got election petition. He won the whole list, change everything, sharp, shell-shocked. And who did that? It's Carbon. That's same Carbon everybody was thinking about. Carbon's coolest time, but these chaps, Carbon knew elections, they know elections. And effectively, they got people that knows election. What the PPP is doing now is to make sure that they don't happen again. They get rigged twice by the opposition without the Americans calling them to rig it against the opposition, like happened in 2020. They manipulated this election twice again. Because now, look, it's only 20% of people and 22% of people in this country believe the election is are really representative. What you think, because what's going on is so widespread, we can't. Party people will not say it openly, but everybody knows. Everybody knows what's going on. So this cash grant thing got a whole lot of other dimensions. The cash grant itself is just I don't know. No, that you said we have money. When you said you're gonna talk about new parties. Look at 17 of ANOG report. Wait, said, but what did ANOG little thing say? It said ensure that a basic income is available firstly to those in need, but eventually to all Guyanese. And this, they went to the 2020 election. They went to the 2020 election with that. That is what should happen when you got the kind of wealth we have. Certainly look after the poorest first. Look after them. And that is what, I know got its own problems, but you don't hear them talking about these things. That's why I said they better reset and know what they want. No. Because that is in their manifesto. You would have thought they would come out and take some credit or something, but they're totally lost out of this whole thing. So effectively, that's the way to go. The UN Development Goals says that's the way to go. It says go. Nobody in the world, as a matter of fact, they left it to countries to do it according to their own opinion, but nobody in the whole world should go to sleep without some basic things. And therefore, your basic income is important. And that's why that said, for the first, look for those that think. But as you get wealth, everybody should have a basic income platform. So that's my context of all this. This is just confusion. It's just doing things when you're forced to do it and all of that. And it's premised on one single thing, that the PPP don't want in 2011 and 2015 again.
PPP doesn't want 2011, 2015 again. We now move to the election that is due next year, and we are still not yet agreed on the rules. There is still not an agreement on what to do about the list. There is still not agreement on what to do about voter impersonation, the use of biometrics. There is still not agreement on how GCOM should move. The chair has argued that she doesn't vote with the PPP. She votes on issues. And so therefore we face another election, Dr. Jeffrey, in which one side or the other would be disappointed about the rules and we would be going into an election with confusion over the rules, with the possibility that one side would not accept the results. Am I overplaying this issue here, or is it as serious as I am making it out?
But it must be a serious issue. Anybody that knows election. First of all, let me go to GCOM. GCOM is supposed to give independent analysis of what is best for Guyana in terms of electoral processes. That is what GCOM is there. It's just not there to run election. It's there to improve the electoral process over time. Now, you have a funny arrangement at GCOM that divided between government and opposition and all of that. Therefore, the chair must have total blame here. You can't worry the two of them. The two of them going to want what they want, and the other side would have want. Steve Bally tried to deal with this issue by not voting. He says only one issue he ever voted against. Cast his vote thing. But that's a move for sterility. It's a sterile thing. Because if you don't vote and the two of them don't agree, status quo remain. And who wants the status quo? The PPP. The PPP don't want anything change. They wanted the status quo. And if you don't vote and take a side, so the chair must take a side, but the side must be progressive and the side must be done in an independent manner. But if you go and vote all the time for the PPP, please tell me how the PPP are always right. Since when?
Mm.
And it's not, as I said in my article about that, it's not that she can't do anything about it. Her job is not only to run elections in Guyana, but to improve the structure of election, totally independent from the PPP, PNC, everybody. And to at least, for instance, you are talking about biometric. No, she should long ago have said, hey, let me analyze this biometric thing. Let's come up, because it's, even if it wasn't in the air and it's in other places, helping to make elections better or whatsoever, and you hear the noise, you didn't even have to hear the noise. You just read about it and you come and you got to put it to them. You got to say, look, we want to improve the electoral process. We would like to always to have free and fair. Therefore, biometrics seem like a way we should go. All right, but let's start quarreling. Say, all right, I vote that we do an analysis, get somebody who know about this to vote, do analysis of whether or not it's useful in our context. And then we see where we go from there. I wait for them to finish, no big discussion or nothing. Essentially, you are the boss there because of the structure of the situation. You are. Don't tell us you vote always according to what you believe is right and tell us then that the PPP is always right.
Dr. Jeffrey, let's take a listen here and then get your comments on the other side. Here we are.
For adequate safeguards, such as the use of enhanced biometrics.
All right, here we go.
With general elections set for next year, the Working People's Alliance believes it is imperative for President Irfan Ali and the leader of the opposition, Aubrey Norton, to engage in dialogue with the aim of finding solutions to the many challenges confronting the Guyana Elections Commission. The opposition and the Elections Commission are at odds over the credibility of the voters list and the need for adequate safeguards, such as the use of enhanced biometrics to safeguard and guard against electoral fraud. The Elections Commission is also facing concerns of bias. With a number of the issues requiring legislative changes, the co-leader of the WPA, Dr. David Hines, said a political intervention may be needed.
Such a solution must include a shared agreement on the rules, the architecture, and a code of conduct for the elections. This is an imperative given what is at stake. It is clear that GCOM finds itself a prisoner of the logic of our political divide. A political solution at the level of the political leaders would release the shackles from GCOM and allow that body to do its job in an impartial manner.
Dr. Hines reasoned that such a solution would remove the growing anxiety in the wider population and restore a sense of confidence in the electoral process. He said the Working People's Alliance's first preference is for the leaders to take the initiative and begin to meet on their own accord. But given their vast differences on the fundamental issues at hand, it may be necessary for some form of mediation. The party proposes a combination of local, regional, and international mediators. Dr. Hines warned that the failure to find common ground can put the country at risk of there being heightened tension as the country moves closer to next year's elections.
First, we are putting our national cohesion at great risk. Our fragile national compact simply cannot withstand another election which is mired in controversy because our major political actors disagree on the rules. This is a sure recipe for prolonged political instability, which, given Guyana's ethno-political divide, could disintegrate into overt conflict. We have been down that road before.
And he also warned that political instability can take a toll on Guyana's economy and hamper economic development.
Economic development in a petro state which is mired in political instability is a non-starter. We have already seen the early signs of how a drift in the direction of autocratic rule is being hastened by our newfound wealth. Controversy over how the oil economy should be managed, how the revenues should be distributed, and what should be our socio-economic priorities will be compounded by a hyper-acrimonious election.
The Working People's Alliance believes the two leaders must arrive at solutions that would restore the public's trust in the electoral machinery and allow for a free and fair election come 2025.
Dr. Jeffrey, your comments on that, what you just heard there.
All right, let me try to say this, that I totally agree with you. First of all, nobody should go to election. No, GCOM should not allow any elections to go when there's this total dispute about the format and the election list and all of that. To do that will be almost criminal, particularly when you have not spent enough time to independently look at these matters. Yes, your position is, in the first place, the Caribbean people, the European Union always say there must be consensus on the election process or of that structure. How are you going to go when only you think it's going to be? I mean, it doesn't make sense. You are going there to win government. You want to win government on your rules. Hello? Yes, all over the world, people try to rig and manipulate election. Only when gerrymander come, not from America, it came with Captain or Brigadier Gerrymander, whatever his name was. So that happens. But what we are in the 21st century, come on. And so today, before you go to any third party, the chair should do what she's appointed. She's the only person that's appointed there as independent. Nobody else is appointed there as independent. You can't get people from the PNC or PP executive and all of and call them independent. She is independent individual and should behave independently. And she's not. By her own words, not by mine. She's been voting on one side all the time. You can't just do that and tell me you are being independent, unless you've been audited externally by some, as you said, group of people that know and say, well, that is the right way. PNC can't be always wrong. I mean, I know there are lots of times wrong, but not always. So effectively, yes, you are totally correct. The process, though, must start with the chair. She has the capacity, like she had during the election, to deal with all the problems that came up during the recount and all that. Remember? Oh, I don't have the permission. I think was the Anna leader now or chairman who come. I think he's the first one to come up with it. This need cross-examination. What did the CJ say? What did our own court said? That GCOM has all the powers and should have finished their issues right there, deal with it. Those who disagree with GCOM's decision, at the end of the day, after they looked at all the problems, could go to an election petition. But enough for GCOM not to complete their job. International best practices said so, that the election commission should have the power to deal with all the issues to come to a final decision. You can challenge the final decision in court. Not they leaving, claiming they ain't got capacity to make their final decision and call elections, call sort of bogus statistics. What kind of thing is that? And that's what happened there. So the election, and not the commissioners, their party people, but she take a hard job there, and the job is indeed not only to say you are doing the right thing. It is, as they say, you must be seen and believed to be doing the right thing, and half the country don't believe. So effectively, your job is to sort that out. Go, as you say, if you think it's the right thing, and then get independent assessors to come in. But she's got a right to take, she's a leader she's the only independent person in a bureaucratic organization, and that bureaucratic organization must finish its job. Finishing its job means making all proposals, not only to carry out election, but to make the elections process better, and then make your decision based upon objective analysis. And if anybody quarrel, do an international, as you say, or national analysis to say you were correct. Don't sit there and tell me I've been doing it, People always say that everybody's right, always right, until you check what they're doing. So yes, I agree with you, but I put the onus on the chair. She is the only independent person there. She should be saying, gentlemen, my job is not just to run election, but to make this process better. This process has been crap in Guyana. Look what we've been going through the last time and so on. Now we're going back with that again? No. I am going to speak to people, get some processes in, and who don't like it, I would audit it if you want, and then it will be implemented. Story done. The Chief Justice said she got all this power. What confused the issue was the PNC saying, GCOM got too much power. GCOM has too much power. The recount break the Constitution. Imagine that. The PNC was saying the recount broke the Constitution because it gives power. The Representation of the People Act give GCOM the power to make law. And they're saying this must break the Constitution. You're giving GCOM the power to make law. And the Chief Justice said, well, GCOM got to get a lot of power, and rightly so too, in my view. She got to get a lot of power. They got to get a lot of power to complete an election. Don't say, well, you got to cross-examine people. The biggest company in the world, the richest companies in the world, got to make some serious decisions. Who they got cross-examine, they cross-examine as an institutional process. But that don't mean you can't take them to court later. But they're making the decision there. This is my decision. If you think I'm wrong, take me to court. Don't let me carry my work to the court. This is a jokey place. You know,
Dr. Jeffrey, in your column this week, you said in part, and I quote, in Guyana, even before independence, identity politics based on ethnic differences had coalesced into a political cleavage between Africans and Indians that has allowed one to easily predict electoral outcomes that leave one ethnic group at the mercy of the other. While this is clearly an undemocratic arrangement, there are three commonplace political approaches. One, efforts to protect ethnic governmental power by maintaining the status quo. Two, demands for inclusiveness and constitutional reforms. And three, a utopian reactionary multi-ethnicity aimed at ethnic political assimilation. Anog chose the second approach, and having noted the negative role ethnically based political divisions and parties have played in Guyanese history, and that the then existing APNU AFC coalition government had not fulfilled its mandate to reform the system, it argued that such political behavior has us all wanting to believe that political promises mean nothing. You were commenting there on Anog, a party that you were a founding member of. I remember on nomination day seeing you out there in front of the Guyana, and we talked because I was there as part of the APN UFC delegation, and you were there as part of Anog. Give us a kind of background against which Anog came into being, and of course do that within the context of the problematic of third parties in a bipolar society or ethnically divided society like Guyana.
Yeah. Well, in an ethnically divided society, you do have third parties. Even in Northern Ireland, you had, I forget what the name of the party, but they were different from the Republicans and the Protestant group and so on. They made their contribution. Guyana has had that situation since independence. And since long before independence, since they were discussing independence, as a matter of fact, the British put this proposal that they had already put to the people in Cyprus. The PPP reject any notion of shared governance. You see, it is not just winning an election. It is winning an election, and particularly by one vote. Look, Suriname. If you can't be president if you don't have 2/3 of the votes. So when you see Suriname making the progress it is making, it is largely because no president can get away by talking to the opposition. None. Imagine you are saying you want, in the previous piece, you had said they must get together and talk. Well, look at the president tell the opposition, I'm not talking to you because you say I rigged the election. And they've been saying the opposition rigged the election all the time. And they're both rigging elections so far as I'm concerned. So he just don't want to talk to them, because to speak to them would not allow him to behave in the manner it's doing with the resources of the people of this country, to talk to them. So yes, your position what was correct, that essentially they should speak, but that itself, in my view, is utopian, given the road the PPP is on. Just unilaterally spend all the money, do what you like, distribute to your supporters, keep everybody else poor. The Amerindians, I know, well, and all that sort of a thing. Therefore, from what I am saying here, it means quite clearly that they what we have the situation in which we have grown into is a situation that essentially allows a British kind of model to exist. The ANOG determined that this is so, and you remember what they say, even in the top of the first thing they say, our party undertakes that it will never enter collision with anybody of any political party for purpose of securing jobs. In its first manifesto, it says, through constitutional reform, establish a system of shared governance that provides security, stability, and equity for Guyanese of all ethnic groups. Anok then was saying, look, we are going to fight for shared governance. I heard some people in Anok have been saying, well, you have not been hearing a lot from Anok about these things. This is a very progressive thing. You've not been hearing anything from them. But you heard some people saying, but the people vote against, by voting against us, the people vote against shared government. It's not nonsense in an ethnically divided society. When you got an ethnically divided society, they run with the ethnic group that's going along. I don't ever believe it could got even a 1 or 2 seats, more than that, because it's not going to happen. The party leaders got control of the arrangement, and they're going to vote. They're going to turn up in the masses and vote. And if it is true that people vote against ANOG, vote by voting, not voting in any large number for ANOGs, even to get a seat or so. If that is true, and you have to give that up, maybe that's why they give up the 1, 2 about the universal basic income, because they say people vote against it. But is that true? You think any Guyanese vote against basic income? Today, look what's happening with the measly $100,000. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants it. They didn't vote against their context. What they are voting against is for one party or the other to take government. They don't want the other ethnic group to take government. But Barjagyo said it during the teachers' strike. When they said, but people from your community are coming out. He said, yeah. They must think this is not political. But look what happened at election time. Some confusion to that effect. So that is where we are. It's a myth to try to think we are anywhere else. And as I said, the PPP was beaten in 2011 and 2015. Now by no people coming out and crossover vote by rigging elections. That is what they've been doing forever long, both sides. And then that's what happened to them again on 2020. That's what happened to the other side. So they're basing all their cards on doing the same thing again. And it's not a good card. It's not a good card, not only because it doesn't secure the ethnic groups in a developmental mode, but more than that, because it's amoral. You can't have only 80% of the people in the country that you call in a democracy don't think you might well be not representative of what they vote for. That's what you have here, David. Mm. If I missed any point you think, just ask.
No. What in a society like Guyana, what is the role of quote unquote third parties? I mean, it's an issue that we've been grappling with.
The moral, just like you have been over years. Mm. That is about all you can do. It's a moral kind of thing, man. This is what should have. Just like what Anok tried to do. It's a moral stance. And if you perchance get involved, I mustn't say that because you were involved. But if you perchance get involved, it's to stand, take your ground and say, this is our position. We don't believe. But essentially, that's what it is. It's a moral. Or you run, if you just run like a normal party, you run into what Anoga's run into with this girl, Kisun. And look at their force. They said they would take nothing from the government. Nothing. Yet they go and take the speakership because the PPP had to offer that.
Yeah.
They didn't take ministry, but they take something that didn't even belong to them. It is not even in the thing of the PPP to give away. The deputy speakership belong over long is even in the British Parliament, we should it to the official opposition. That is where it belongs. Yeah, they took it. And if they might well say it's a joint group or no, we didn't take it and the others took it. But then you should have made a disclaimer, even if you stayed with them. You could have made a disclaimer, say, what, we don't want nothing to do with this thing. This thing is not, this thing is for the PNC. Because the PNC was threatened, but the PNC started.
Who started it? Yes.
You see, again, you're gone. It's they started. I wrote an article. I said, these people are mad. Why are they doing that? But it's they started. So when the PNC is tit for tat politics. But Anok should not be involved in tit apart. I help any party to continue with the tit for tat politics. Anok should stand up outside and say, no. You keep it. You keep it. If you don't want, we are not part of it. You keep it because of this. There's a moral stance. But before you even say anything, they got with it. We got with the PPP. That is not even minister. It's not even something in that the PPP got right to give. If they you know how that might have helped as a major part, as a party going forward. People would have sat down and said, "Boy, these chaps, like they're serious, like they ain't getting involved." Instead of that, they're joining the PPP. We're taking things from the PNC and got the whole PNC organization saying they are PPP.
The drawing the thing was articulated for us, as I remember it, by Ralph Ramkoran, who pointed out this thing, and everybody embraced it.
Yeah, because it's a good idea.
Right. Now GCOM is saying that they made a mistake in implementing the thing. What do you make of that?
That's what they're saying. They said they made a mistake in how it is implemented.
How it is implemented, yes.
Right. And but it's a new thing, it's something new. But it shows you another aspect of our life. Every minute you wake up, young people are different. Who doing this crap? Who sit down and they don't want to leave?
Don't want to leave. A young person. Yes. That's very good point.
But it's actually, they had an agreement. Once they decided to take it, they had the agreement. And the woman refused to go, and she's encouraged by the people, or she'd have gone. People would have said, we call her thing a voter. She would have gone. The PPP encouraged her. Indeed, when you sit down and think of it, you might ask yourself, didn't the PPP encourage the whole lot to give her instead of Arnold? Because I doubt they're going to get out doing things like that.
Like that, right.
We got, but she just broke the rule. You can say GCOM make error. And people make errors. But that is not the essence. This thing is because a young lady sits there and don't want to honor something she signed to. Let me don't carry this thing further and start going back to GCOM. Yes, GCOM might make a mistake. The joint group is a good idea. It shows that it tries to get every vote to count in the Guyana elections process. I'm not quarreling with that. And this first time they're doing it, and yes, they might make error, but that's not the problem. The problem is the girl herself. It's the people come and tell you don't stay there and don't go, and then you just stay there and don't go. Or you take it on yourself to just break the old rules. And certainly, I mean, that is where the problem lies. That's where it lies. GCOM, of course, has perhaps can do lots more to move her. The chairman can call some at a meeting and said, I am voting that we move to move her, and vote with those who want to move her.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. If she can make laws against even the Constitution, she could go and call some sort of motion to remove Asha Isoud and say, even if they say she ain't got power, let her go to court with it.
Yeah, that question is being asked, why this matter was never taken to court.
Let them go to court. I am GCOM. We think we may have made a mistake or we did not make a mistake. What we certain of is that they signed an agreement. The agreement was not legal, but we got the power here to say that you are not properly representing the people that who voted for y'all because you got 200 votes. These people got 2,000. You got 200, and you are sitting down there.
Yeah. Dr. Jeffrey, before you go, this past week, the opposition nominee on the Natural Resource Fund said that the PPPP has been drawing out money from the fund and not itemizing what they're doing with the money. The Vice President, Jack Dio, said that it would be difficult to itemize, in effect saying he doesn't think that they should itemize. From our standpoint here, you have a clash between the right of the executive to govern unimpeded by some committee, but also the right to transparency and accountability. So we have these two principles at work here. Where do you come down on it?
How much money is spent out of the fund, from what I understand, goes to Parliament.
Mm-hmm.
If you had a proper Parliament can ask for, please, what is it this money is being spent for? And how much of this money you are spending come from the fund?
Yeah.
So it should not have been a problem simply for them to do that, because they're going to say, oh, we are put it in the, what the government fund called?
Consolidated fund.
Yes, and therefore it thing. No, but you don't have a proper Parliament. All you got is a government give you all sort of counter answers. So the question of Mr. Jack, you said it be difficult. It's not that difficult, even if you proportionalize it. If you take $100 million from the fund and you're spending $102 million, please tell us what you prioritize to do with the fund from the thing. I mean, that's not, that's brain surgery. No, it can be done. But from a legal standpoint, they're doing nothing wrong. You put it in the
consolidated
fund, and they spend it from there. Other monies might be in there too, and do thing and all of that. I mean, it could be a little more bureaucracy, but I don't see it can be anything to be done. And if you had a proper Parliament that they are accountable to, you would have had answers to that in a proper manner.
Would have had answers to it in a proper manner. Dr. Henry Jeffrey here tonight, touching on a range of issues, from the elections to the cash grant to the question of how third parties should function in a bicommunal society like ours. And of course, we ended here with the whole issue of money coming out of the coming out of the natural resource fund and going into the consolidated fund, and what is the responsibility of the executive branch and that. Jeffrey, one quick thing before you go. They consolidated the money, the oil monies in a bank in New York, rather than in some regional or national bank. How does that square with sovereignty?
Yeah, but who cares like about sovereignty and money? You know, the great thing is where it's more secure. People should watch it is now more secure. However, you know, you want your money in a place that give you proper interest and more secure and give long-term stability. Money don't get tied up too much with, well, if you're smart, you don't tie up your money with too much politics. Even when you get your money, you got put in a safe bank. You don't put in no bank that's a very disappear tomorrow. You put in a bank that give you you got to place your money in a place that operates according to how money should operate and gives you the best interest and security over the longest possible run. Now you will find one of them in the region to do this.
Dr. Henry Jeffrey, what a note to end on. I will see you in 2 weeks, I think. Yes, 2 weeks before Christmas. And I'll see you in 2 weeks. And as usual, by the time you come back, there's so much to talk about. Thank you,
David.
Thank you.
And
Dr. Henry Jeffrey here tonight, frankly speaking on a number of issues. Michael, who is in Syria, and as we all have been saying, be safe there, Michael. You're in Syria. I'm going to try to do a program on what's going on there in the Middle East, especially in Syria. It's quite interesting, the removal of the government by the rebels and the willingness of the rebels to at least keep the democracy, the bureaucracy that is there in place. Quite an interesting development that you can have essentially the armed overthrow of a government in the Middle East. What or who are behind that? I'll probably do a show on it before the end of the year. Thank you all for your contribution. I would like to thank Asher for his contribution to the WPA, and thank Mr. DeFlurman for his contribution to Politics 101. And we will be back tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll cover more that wage package that the government gave to public servants and that the union says it's a start. Oh my. Tomorrow night, we'll talk more about that. As usual, love is the watchword because we're in this thing together.